Here's Brody Brazil.
You know, as soon as I saw this come out in the Nevada Independent, I instantly knew it was going to generate conversation and even some controversy. It's clearly labeled as an opinion piece. This is guest commentary. This is not a news article by any means. The headline says, Las Vegas would be good for A's, written by somebody named Steve Kaniger, who I'm not familiar with. But I am growing a little bit more familiar with the Nevada Independent. I highly respect their operation, their organization, some of the people that write for them. True journalism. They really cover a story, and they've broke this A's story to Nevada. They've covered it the entire way. And again, this is not news and journalism, what they're doing here, but in part, this is journalism, showing you both sides of a story. An opinion here, which in my opinion, has a lot of flaws to it, and it's got even a lot worse to it as you dive into it. I'm not going to share the entire thing here because I'd actually prefer that you go read this opinion piece in its entirety on the Nevada Independent's website, but I will take some portions here, read them to you, and react with you. He says, poor attendance has afflicted the franchise, the A's, as far back as the early 1930s, after the glow faded from the great Philadelphia athletics teams of 1925 to 32. As Hall of Famers Lefty Grove, Jimmy Fox, Mickey Cochran, and Al Simmons departed, so did the fans. When the Athletics moved to Kansas City in 1955, 18,330 Kansas City fans turned out per game at Municipal Stadium, good enough for second best in the 8-team American League. Attendance gradually slid after the team traded players such as Roger Maris, Ralph Terry, and Clete Boyer to the hated Yankees, who used those men to win more championships. So I'm not sure what we're suggesting here, that history repeats itself and that's good enough for the Oakland A's to relocate to Las Vegas, or are you predicting that all of this was written in the stars, and because the A's have a bit of a nomadic history between Philadelphia and Kansas City to Oakland, that this was destiny from 90 years ago, from the 1920s and 30s, that they were just bound to get to Las Vegas eventually? And if you are suggesting that, I'd really like to know that, does it also come with the anticipation that in 30 to 40 to maybe 50 years, maybe I'll still be alive, that the A's will be moving away from Las Vegas to somewhere else? Or do you think that Las Vegas is magically their forever home when any of these cities or not? Look, there's a lot of things that go into relocation. And a Major League Baseball team, as the A's did from Philly to Kansas City, going west was part of the equation of professional sports. For a lot of teams and a lot of leagues, this is different. This is not a team going west. I mean, literally, it's a team moving southeast. But the point is, you cannot compare any of that stuff to the present. He continues, shouldn't Las Vegas wait instead for baseball to expand? That could be a long wait, and baseball might choose not to expand. The sport hasn't expanded since 1998. Many people thought the National Basketball Association would expand to Las Vegas soon after playing its 2007 All-Star game at UNLV. 16 years later, Las Vegas is still waiting, the NBA's annual Summer League notwithstanding. Two things to mention here. Are you paying attention to sports and news coverage where the commissioner has basically promised that the sport will expand by 2 teams as soon as Oakland and Tampa Bay get their situations resolved? Expansion is happening. I can tell you that plainly and clearly, and I'm not a betting man, but I would bet on that. I pretty much know where one team's going to be, Nashville. They're out east. You know baseball's going to want to balance that geography with one out west. You're out west. This is bound to happen. In fact, if an A's ballpark in Las Vegas wasn't even open until 2028 or potentially 2029 with the construction of a new Bally's or Tropicana hotel, you could, in a different setup, I think, should the A's stay in Oakland and should Tampa get their situation resolved, you could actually have an expansion franchise quicker than you could get the Oakland A's. So that's one point. The other part about this is the 2007 NBA All-Star Game at UNLV. Didn't that come with a lot of issues and drama and, I don't want to say regret, but kind of a delay of why basketball didn't choose to show interest in Las Vegas again? There was just some, And I can't remember how it played out, but there was some question about the future of the NBA in Las Vegas after that. Now, clearly we are decades removed. We've seen the development of Southern Nevada to the point where ownership has already come in to say that they would privately finance an entire NBA arena and pay for the expansion fee with the NBA to take care of all of this. And we know the NBA is probably going to expand Seattle and Las Vegas if that's in the cards. My point is to think that you're far away from either of these things just because they haven't happened yet. Are you missing the other part that you're also not far away from a true reality of these things happening? Here's another portion. I can still recall where I was on June 13th, the same day as the reverse boycott. I was admiring all the bedlam from Section 212, Row R, Seat 1 of T-Mobile Arena. It was Game 5 of hockey's Stanley Cup Final, and the Vegas Golden Knights, a team most sports pundits thought would never excel in the desert, were gleefully parading the Stanley Cup around the ice like a bunch of kids bolting school for summer vacation. As an inaugural season ticket holder, I still haven't been able to process what I have witnessed with this miracle team over the past 6 years. You should have just wrote that last sentence only. To think that Las Vegas can dramatically change the ways and the luck and the fortune and the operation of the Oakland A's. I mean, to even reference those two things kind of in the same statement, to say that one could be very much like the other only if it exists in Las Vegas. What the Golden Knights have experienced is equally special and equally rare. Of all the pro sports teams that have started over the decades and centuries, how many of them get the boost of the expansion draft like they did? And look, that was a benefit of the $500 million expansion fee they paid to the NHL. But they made the most of it. A lot of teams couldn't capitalize on it. They did, and credit to them, and quite honestly, credit to the Seattle Kraken. Year 2 of their existence means the playoffs. I mean, year 1 of the Golden Knights was a Stanley Cup final appearance. 99.9% of other sports franchises have not been living what the Golden Knights have for the last 6 years. And ebbs and flows, if you've been around sports long enough, which I'm questioning the author here on truly, to not understand that this isn't how it goes. And a move to Las Vegas, like change of scenery, and it doesn't matter if it's Las Vegas or anywhere, is not necessarily going to change how things result for you. Okay. Then he goes on to make a couple arguments and counters them with his take. And I'm going to start with this one, and I want you to soak it in. It's almost unbelievable that it was something thought, something written down, and something even published. It's that ridiculous. The argument, he says, Oakland with more Black and Asian residents is better suited for the A's because it is more racially diverse than Las Vegas. His take: data from the 2020 U.S. Census reveals Las Vegas more closely resembles the demographics of Major League Baseball players, according to numbers reported on MLB's website, that show this season they are approximately 60% white, 30% Hispanic, 6.2% Black, and 3.2% Asian. Are we suggesting that Major League Baseball is the model of diversity? Because it is the farthest from that, I think, right now, as maybe it's ever been. And to think that Las Vegas equally fits the census breakdown and the MLB demographics are the same, and that is an unbelievable thought process. You know, I almost want to expand even more on this, but I think you can see it. I don't think there's much more from me that needs to be said about that. It's unreal. Another one, the argument. The reverse fan boycott held at the Oakland Coliseum for the June 13th game against Tampa Bay was a wild success. His take: more like a dud. According to the 14 Major League box scores published on ESPN's website that day, 9 other games drew larger crowds than Oakland, despite 8 of those games played in smaller ballparks than the 46,000-seat Coliseum. Average attendance for the 14 games was 31,130, which was 3371 or 12% above the reverse boycott. Okay, great math, buddy. Great math. And you got us. Okay, other teams still drew more. This person says they've been an A's fan. They started going to games in the late 60s at the Coliseum, and they were captivated by the franchise. If you've been following along, you plainly know that the Oakland A's had no problem drawing fans and leading in attendance when they were both interesting and when they were both being supplied with the necessary players on the field to do the job. To question the attendance only of the reverse boycott, not to witness the message or how it came together or what was the attendance like the night before and the next home game after that. To try and diminish the message by looking at attendance figures only is crazy. When does a reverse boycott ever even happen? You've never even heard of something like that until A's fans saw this as their only option to have a voice and send a message in this situation. This honestly sounds like exactly how the commissioner of Major League Baseball responded. Because his body language was clear, he didn't like to see this, and this is how he responded. Well, average attendance, I guess that's good, and that's pretty much the exact same point being made here. If you've truly been following along, you know that there is a much deeper story than the math on the screen. Another argument, the 30,000-seat stadium proposed for Las Vegas is too small for a major league team like the A's. His take, that will be plenty big. In 56 seasons, the A's have exceeded average attendance of only 30,000 only 4 times, all from 89 to 92. If anything, it proves the Coliseum was overbuilt for baseball. Side story, it wasn't built for baseball. It proves the Coliseum was overbuilt for baseball, with tens of thousands of empty seats masquerading as fans much more often than not. The argument that the 9-acre site proposed for the Las Vegas ballpark is too small a footprint also doesn't hold water, he says. Fenway Park in Boston, one of sports' architectural wonders of the world, sits on 9 acres. Target Field, home of the Minnesota Twins, is even smaller. Okay, we've got a lot to bite into here. 30,000 seats is a hard number when the A's have flat out said they need about 28,500 per game to pay off taxes, to have tax money go back and pay the bonds that are put out there and floated by Clark County. That was testified in the Nevada State Legislature. I'm paying attention. I know that to be exactly how it was spelled out. So how do you average 28.5 when your stadium only seats 30? How do you compensate for the games where you have 17, 18, 19,000? Hey, it's a slow Wednesday afternoon. You couldn't sell it all out. It happens to literally every Major League Baseball team every season. How do you compensate? Because if you don't have 47,000 seats like the Mariners do, and they averaged about 30,000, just shy of that last year, you can't make up for the slow nights if you don't have extra seats. So that's one part of it. The other part is the 9-acre site. Oh, Fenway Park is a architectural wonder of the world. Who has ever said that? It's a cathedral. It's a great testament to history, the improvements they've done, the stories. It has nothing to do with an architectural wonder. I don't think who's ever said that. It's beautiful. It also sits on more than 9 acres if you actually include all of the supporting buildings and structures necessary around it for Fenway Park to operate. And here's the other part. Fenway Park doesn't have a retractable roof. Neither does Target Field. Oh, Target Field also hangs over, is it not an interstate, maybe an expressway? Out in right field, there is part of the ballpark that nobody counts, even though it exists and it's necessary, but it hangs over a roadway in right field. They had to get super creative. So yeah, Target Field might be closer to 9 acres. I still think if you count it the right way, it's 10 or 11, but there's no roof on Target Field either. There's no retractable roof stadium in baseball on 9 acres. The next closest is 11.7 something. And that's for the Brewers with American Family Field. The argument, Nevada legislature and Governor Joe Lombardo should be ashamed for approving $380 million in public funds to help construct a baseball stadium in Las Vegas for billionaire Fisher. His take, as distasteful as corporate welfare is, it remains unavoidable as long as cities and states battle each other by using free land, tax exemptions, zoning, and rights of way inducements to lure corporations and jobs. I can make this one simple. So if everybody's going to jump off the bridge, you'll just do it too. Okay? Which brings him, to his parting thought. Wouldn't it be nice if Fisher seeks marketing advice from Knight's owner Bill Foley, who has become a folk hero in the desert? It was Foley who 6 years ago boldly predicted Cup in 6. We all thought he was nuts. My advice to Fisher, offer Foley minority ownership of the A's and watch them turn the tables on the hated Yankees for a change. Is the author of this suggesting to, in part, sell the team? The argument that the author is taking here, I mean, it literally ends with a nod to bringing somebody else in. That's his suggestion here. I'm just regurgitating it. And we're turning the tables on the Yankees? From back in the day of the Philadelphia and Kansas City days? A little out of touch here in a lot of ways. Steve Kaniger is a retired award-winning journalist from Las Vegas who worked for newspapers for 40 years and television for 4 years. And again, I just want to say closing thoughts for me on this. People are quick to point the finger at the Nevada Independent. They've done a really good job in this. They're presenting both sides of this, even a side that clearly has some holes in it. So, and they labeled it as such. They did not make it unclear exactly what was happening. So I know there's going to be comments below. Keep it smart, please, and sane. Thumbs up on this video since you made it here to the end. And don't forget, subscribe to the channel so that I can definitely see you back here next time.